Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our webinar this afternoon. I'm Alec McCutcheon from Unicom. We're delighted to be co-hosting the SEPG Europe conference for the first time this year in partnership with the CMMI Institute. We're really excited and very much looking forward to coming to Amsterdam on 14th and 15th of November. And what we plan to do this afternoon, I'd like to introduce Eileen Forrester, CMMI Product Manager for CMMI Institute. And Eileen is going to sketch and outline a bit about what we're planning to do this year, what's going to be different, and what the program's going to cover. So without further ado, I will hand you over to Eileen.
Thank you very much, Alec. I'm really pleased to be here. Thank you for joining me this afternoon, where most of you are. It's morning here in Pittsburgh. We're delighted to be having the SEPG Europe in Amsterdam with Unicom, and we are also particularly delighted that we are doing it with Agile and DevOps conference input as well. This is one of our major strategic themes here at the CMMI Institute, and so this is particularly appropriate. We know that this is a keen interest for a lot of our users. I am going to cover what the themes are at the conference and what's a little bit different, just as Alex said, and what we hope for from the conference and encourage you to attend. On the first slide, where I'm showing what I'll cover, you see an image of one of our technical documents. We have long encouraged people to use both CMMI and Agile. And so that document's available if some of you aren't familiar with it. But we're trying to have more interaction, and we'll be developing more products and approaches to using Agile and CMMI seamlessly together. But we're also keenly interested in DevOps. So we have some approaches with CMMI for development and CMMI for services that we'll be excited to tell you about. So a joint conference this year with Agile, DevOps, and CMMI all being used together. And we have often had a lot of expert content at the SEPG Europe conference. And we will have some of that content as well, but we'd like to have more cases, more user stories, direct user experience and results in the voice of the users. And so we're working on a program of that sort, and I'm pleased and honored to be curating the content for the CMMI portion of the conference. So the program is still being developed, and I will not be mentioning all of the confirmed presenters and companies today, but we have some confirmed, and you'll begin to hear more about this content in a series of webinars that Unicom will be sponsoring. And I will tell you about the next one that will be scheduled, and we'll also have some information for you on how to participate. Let me just emphasize that we have long published the results that organizations get with CMMI, and these are a few of the results that we've seen in recent years with some of our longtime user organizations. I particularly wanted to offer this material because Siemens is one of those longtime users. They've enjoyed a productivity improvement using CMMI over a 3-year period. And Siemens will be presenting one of our technical presentations in the program. They have worked with the former FDI colleagues and now CMMI Institute and with a set of security and engineering experts based on their experience, and have built an application guide for security during development. So this is content that goes along with the CMMI for Development version 1.3. We've published a technical paper on this topic, and it's available if you want more information. So the idea here is that, especially for our European users, they have long asked for approaches to including security while they're doing their engineering or development.
Hi, Eileen. It's Alec. Can I just check for a sec? I think your slides are not appearing on screen at the moment. Can you just check your... Ah, that's it. They're back up now.
Are they?
Up there.
Yes, we were not that one. While we're checking that, I'll just mention that in the room with me are Katie Tarara, our event and marketing communication specialist here, Lisa Massiantonio, our partner network director, and Jay Douglas. So many of you who are partners or longtime users know Lisa and Jay. You may not know Katie yet. Do we have the slides back up? We have the slides. Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So I was mentioning that Siemens will be presenting their material on the Security by Design, the application guide that they led with community participation. I just wanted to mention that the way they've done this is to take existing CMMI for development process areas and then interpret those and add a lot of rich information on how to have organizational preparedness for secure development, security management and projects, how to include security requirements and technical solution, and then to verify and validate. So I strongly encourage you to attend that session if you're interested. Take a look at the technical note, and we will be having a webinar from Peter to preview that content for you in just a little bit. We've also got a case study from Lockheed Martin in the U.S. When we built the CMMI for services, it was in part because our longtime experienced users of CMMI found that just having a model for the development portion of the life cycle wasn't enough, and that they wanted model material that would allow the same kind of process improvement for the entire life cycle. And that was part of what led us to build the CMMI for services. So many of those users are now using CMMI for development and services together, and Lockheed Martin in particular has a very interesting case of using partial content from each of those models together throughout the life cycle. It struck me that this is very similar to the DevOps drivers that we see in IT, but applied to large software-intensive systems. So we have 6 instances that colleagues at Lockheed Martin and here at CMMI Institute have looked at together, and we'll be able to tell you about how that works in our domain. We've also been working with the community on some more agile appraisal approaches. So those of you who know CMMI know the SCAMPI appraisal method, and that the SCAMPI in particular is very robust. But we are always looking for ways to make it still robust, but more flexible, cost-effective, perhaps leaner, and a little less costly to apply for our using organizations. So we've been developing this for more than a year with our users in the U.S., Europe, and Asia Pacific, and we've had the first couple of pilots of a possible leaner approach to the SCAMPI appraisal. One of those has been done in Europe, and the leader of that pilot will be presenting the results of that appraisal. So this is material that's really for more experienced users of CMMI and SCAMPI rather than for new users. We will have content for both new and experienced users in the CMMI program. And I wanted to mention that because we are still developing this approach and deciding whether it's robust and has the characteristics that we want, it's a good idea to get information on this, and there's still time for users to influence the approach. We'll have a presentation from some of our DMM team. Now, DMM may be new to even those of you that know us pretty well. At CMMI Institute, DMM stands for Data Management Model. We are developing that in concert with the here in the U.S. So our first users and stakeholders who asked us to work with them to build such a model were in the U.S. financial industry, especially regulators, people involved with the stock exchange here and who had been concerned about the financial crisis that we've all experienced worldwide and the contribution of data managed to that. We wanted to see some improvements in that area. And so we are working on that model now. We have had some pilots of applying some of the content from early draft material and attempting to assess how an organization is doing. So Microsoft has given us our first published case, and we will have a presentation from one of the developers of the model who participated in that pilot with Microsoft. Here again, You can hear about how we're developing this approach, and there's time to influence the direction. So we will have a draft out for review about the time of the conference and would look forward to your input. So we're talking with a number of presenters about additional user cases. I've mentioned that we would really like to have as much of the story of what it's like to use CMMI and Agile together directly from users. And so we do have a case confirmed of an Agile organization in the financial and healthcare industry. They're using both the CMMI for development and the CMMI for services model. They've achieved a maturity level 3 in appraisal. And what's particularly notable in this case is they have very good measurable business results, like increased revenue and customer satisfaction. So that organization will be telling you about their journey with process improvement. And when we ask users to present, we encourage them to tell us, we say warts and all here in the U.S., what bumps did they experience? What were their lessons learned? And how did they get to their eventual success? And this is a case of dramatic success. So I'm eager to hear that presentation myself. We are also likely to have a case on an Agile transformation from more traditional development in the financial community, and a case from transportation. Sometimes people with CMMI use assume that it's software only, but of course we see all kinds of development, especially hardware development. So this case is likely to be more hardware intensive. And we have a case of high maturity against the CMMI for development and services that will be presented. In this instance, they have an interesting approach where they have used a subset of the process areas in the people CMM model in order to sustain high maturity. High maturity, once you achieve it, is sometimes difficult to institutionalize or keep in place. And that's part of the high maturity approach, that you do need to constantly be improving and optimizing. And so this is a very promising approach. And this particular presentation may be a workshop rather than a short presentation. So some of these presentations will be just 30 minutes or so to get rapid exposure to cases, and we will have some longer sessions where there's hands-on material with techniques that you can take away. While we're emphasizing the user cases, we do want to make sure that you get expert advice from longtime users and partners. And so we have confirmed a presentation on global trends in process improvement to include Agile, DevOps, which models are in use, and so forth. We are also looking forward to the next version of a presentation that has been given elsewhere and was award-winning on intelligent evolution in the workplace. This will be from one of our partners, and the idea here is that there are more enlightened ways to get a company to change and to make the improvements that they're looking for, with shared vision and leadership, but also relying on data and training. So we look forward to that next version as well. Some of our other CMMI Institute partners will be on hand, and we're discussing presentations with them, but I also want to encourage those of you who may be new users to take full advantage when you're at the conference and find these partners and talk with them. They're always generous with their time and their advice in real time, and you can get a great start when you talk to those partners. We're also delighted that we're talking with some of our colleagues and past and participants from the CMMI Made Practical conference, usually given in the UK, and that some of them will be offering presentations and joining the conference as well. So we're looking forward to a good mix of new users, experienced users, cases and field instances from a variety of experiences with the full range of our models, but also expert advice. we've got lots of information here on how to participate. So registration will open shortly, and we have the link there. And Unicom, Alec will be giving more information about pricing soon, but I can tell you that they are assembling an attractive package of pricing for this joint conference. We are still open to your ideas and suggestions about presentations, especially user cases for the conference. While we've got a nice set already in the works, we do have some room and some possibility for parallel sessions if we get attractive ideas. So please do suggest those, and there's an email link here for you to suggest those to us. A more general link for any of your questions about CMMI, and we do have a LinkedIn site about this conference and other matters. So with that, I'll see if we have some questions that I should be answering. Okay. Presentation, will this be available in the coming days? The current webinar? Yes. That's the question. Yes, I believe it's recorded, right? Okay. So that's one question. Will this webinar be available for others who may not have been able to join at this time? The answer to that is yes. And I assume Alec and Katie will share information about that. Okay, next question. In the past, SEPG Europe has been heavy on U.S. presentations. Will we have a strong majority of EU presentations? Yes. I would say that so far the only presentations from the U.S. will be the Microsoft instance on DMM and the Lockheed Martin instance on dev and service. The rest of the presentations so far are Europe, and we do have one possibly from Asia or Africa. What else, Katie? Okay, so there's a question here about DMM. What kind of data management? Does it include organizations and product performance indicators and so forth? So I'm not the right person to answer a detailed question about the data management model, but Jay Douglas is here if he wants to attempt to answer that, and we will get you information, Isabel, from a couple of our colleagues who are working directly on DMM.
Yeah, hi Isabel, this is Jay Douglas. What I'll do is to send you just an overview document that we have. As Eileen mentioned, the model is approaching completion. It is not done yet. We're anticipating it to be released prior to the end of 2013. But I can send you an overview document that includes the categories, target categories of the target process areas. So, thanks for the question.
So for those of you who know CMMI, this is a somewhat different approach architecturally to the DMM model than CMMI, but has many things in common with CMMI, and we're expecting an appraisal approach, possibly a consulting or practitioner approach, training, and so forth. But the model itself is still in draft. Okay. How will the program time be shared with DevOps and Agile? Thank you for that question. That's a good one. So the DevOps and Agile material will be on day one of the conference. And all three threads will be in concert, will be given in concert. Attendees will be free to attend any of the content on that first day. We'll continue with a second day of SEPG Europe content. And there will be probably DevOps and Agile content because we really have it throughout the program that we're planning so far. And so we'll encourage attendees who are interested mostly in DevOps and Agile to take a look at our program and consider the second day as well. The theme for the Agile material is Agile in Complex Environments, and the DevOps Summit is all about implementing DevOps. So we think that this is very consonant with CMMI. We will have our plenary sessions together. So the keynotes and the plenary sessions will be in concert. Alice, did you want to add anything to that answer?
Yeah, sure. Just really to clarify for everybody what our plan is, we have effectively on the first day there'll be three tracks. There's the SEPG Europe conference. Then also we have an event called the DevOps Summit, which runs in parallel on the same day, and a third conference which is about Agile in large and complex organizations. And our plan is that probably up to the morning coffee break we'll have a common plenary session across the events, and then, as Eileen said, through the day people can choose which session to come to. We're going to have a shared exhibition and networking area so everybody can come together and meet each other. So it should be a really exciting event.
Great. Okay. Oh dear. Okay, so Katie tells me that we're getting a long question, the substance of which so far is, can we make CMMI sexy? I don't know if I can commit to that exactly. So I guess I'll interpret that to say, certainly in my view, CMMI is a proven approach for decades now. But people are using it in a more nimble and flexible fashion. I've always encouraged that with CMMI for Services, which I've been responsible for. And I think it's crucial that users be able to get advantage, get business advantage and business results from using CMMI with Agile and DevOps. So I don't know what the rest of the substance of the question is.
Agile and CMMI conflict, but we don't.
Okay. All right. So our view is that they're complementary approaches, and so the document I pointed you to at the beginning is a start of that. When we released our version 1.3 model, the most recent version of the CMMI model, we did add some pointers for Agile material. We're seeing a lot of effort during appraisals, especially in the U.S., to accommodate Agile, Lean, Scrum, Kanban approaches, and some of our appraisers are quite adept at looking at that evidence. Some of our consultants are adept at doing implementations that are accommodating to Agile, Lean, Scrum, Kanban kinds of approaches. I think this is crucial. So we look forward to having a further discussion on that at the conference.
And I would say, this is Katie, and I have the benefit of seeing your question written out, Peter. And so just to respond, you also asked about people, CMMI people going to Agile conferences, but maybe Agile people not coming to CMMI conferences. And I think the co-location of this event gives us a great opportunity to really connect across communities. So we're looking forward to that.
That's great. I think that's a fair point. I think CMMI users have long felt that Agile does fit, and that may not be as obvious for our Agile colleagues. So on the other hand, I remember Alistair Coburn a few years ago at an SEPG North America gave our keynote. He was asked about the connection between CMMI and Agile, and he said, I don't know why people keep asking this question. It seems to me that you would have to have level 3 practices in order to get full advantage of the promise of Agile. And I think that's a fair point. Okay, so we have a question about when registration for SEPG Europe will open. We expect that within 24 hours. We've got that ready to go. It's a matter of making the web page live. So within a day, you should be able to register for SEPG Europe. If you are eager to be in touch before the 24 hours, just link with us at any of the links I gave you on the How to Participate page, and we will make sure to reach back to you as soon as it's live.
Just to come in, it's Alec again. As Eileen mentioned earlier, we're planning to be super competitive this year with the pricing for the event, and also what we're going to do is offer a super early bird rate for anybody who signs up before 9th of August, and then an early bird offer until 9th of September. So as I say, with the pricing, I think you'll find quite attractive this year.
I agree. Okay, any more questions? Looks like not. All right, so let me just say thanks very much for attending and for your interest in SEPG Europe. I hope to see you there in November. And I'll just emphasize once more that although we've got plenty of material already for the program, we have the possibility for parallel tracks, and we're always interested in additional user cases. Also, if you can't take advantage of SEPG Europe or we don't agree on a presentation for SEPG Europe, we're still interested in your cases and are looking for a variety of ways to publish those. So feel free to reach out to us with those instances. And I look forward to seeing you in November.